Hi, everyone. My name is Keith Weiner. I am the founder of Battle Tested Sales. On this week's 5 Questions with a Founder, I'm joined by Nikki Lang, who specializes in mindset for coaching. Did I get that right, Nikki?
Yeah. Focus mainly on mindset in sales and the power that mindset can have on your bottom line, on your number as a rep.
Awesome. And then you've written a book and a course. Can you just briefly explain that before we jump into the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just published my ebook, which is a foundational guide to mindset and sales. It's basically a high-level overview of what mindset and sales even is. What does that mean? Why is it important? And just some of kind of the bigger theoretical ideas behind it. And then the course is implementing a winning mindset and sales, which takes you through a little bit more of your day-to-day exercises and practices that you can do to implement some of these theories into your everyday life to see results.
Awesome. Let's jump right into the 5 questions. Is that
All right.
cool?
Yeah,
All
let's do
right.
it.
So I help founders onboard founding sales reps. So I provide them with like a framework and measure milestones to get to quota. Beside the business metrics, is there any mindset shifts that we can see from both the founder and probably the AE to get them to those milestones quicker?
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about this in my course, especially for founders and founding AEs. I think a big piece of this puzzle is going to be grace and patience with oneself.
Hmm.
Um, this is a very like the founder and the founding AE is a very, symbiotic relationship where obviously, the AE needs the founder to understand the product and the go-to-market strategy. However, the founder very much needs the rep to bring back that, tales from the field and what's working and what's not working. So I think having a lot of grace and patience for both oneself, but also your counterpart in that environment is incredibly important. As reps, a lot of times we tie a lot of our self-worth and value to our performance metrics
Hmm.
within a role. Most of us are very high achieving, perfectionist, controlling type A personality types. We don't do particularly well with failure.
Yep.
So it's critically important, especially going in as a founding AE, where a lot of this is experimental. It's going to take time, it's going to take iterations to recognize and remember that your self-worth and value is not directly correlated or tied to your performance metrics. You are providing so much more value to the company and to the world as you go through the experience of figuring out what that best go-to-market or sales motion looks like. So it's a lot broader than just the numbers on a leaderboard. So it's really important to keep that in mind.
Totally. And you mentioned something really important about the founders, like, accepting sort of the realistic expectations. So can you go over how, like, my framework is mostly metrics with a business case tied to getting to ramp somebody up and then getting them to obviously hit quota. Where does that mindset shift fit within that? No, 90, I like to say sales cycle plus 90 days to get to quota. So how can we start reframing this for the on the founder side that have maybe never done sales before to really shift them into a sales mindset?
That's a great question. And that could probably be an entire episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
But I would say, for the founder, it is to have the self-awareness and honesty with oneself to admit that you may not know the best strategy to sell your own product.
Mhm.
That the way that you think it will work or the way that it has been working
Mhm.
may not be the best way to scale or to build your go-to-market strategy. And so it's going to take trust in your team to take that feedback and to be able to accept it truly and deeply. A lot of times founders think that because they've sold a product in a certain way, that that's the way that it will be sold as they grow. But it's very different selling something as a founder than it is a team of sales reps. So it's to have that self-awareness, to be aware of that trap that's very easy to fall into and remain committed to being open to the feedback that your founding sales rep is giving you. There's a reason why you hired them. There's a reason why you trust them. Remember that, and really try and take to heart what they say, and have a very open two-way communication with them. So I would say to just try and keep in mind that your way may not be the best way going forward.
And that's a great point. You mentioned the word trust, which,
Mhm.
jumped right out there when talking about founders and hiring your first sales team, because we're talking about founder mode now, and people being extra involved in all the processes. How do you, with the new buzzword of founder mode, how can founders still be in founder mode, but then also still be trusting of their founding employees?
Yeah. I mean, I think that they go hand in hand. Like, listen, if you want to be a founder of a great company, you have to support your founding employees. Like, you can't have one without the other. You can't be a founder on an island, or you won't have a company to grow. So a lot of that is going to be handing over some of those reins and that control, and delegating it to your team, remembering that you work with a lot of very smart people. Hopefully, you have hired some very smart people that you can start handing off some of these things to. And then kind of take a moment to recognize the discomfort in that and be okay with the discomfort, but don't let it stop you from handing over some of that control to your team. They are all there busting their butts for your company. So have gratitude and respect and trust, and let them do what they do. If there's a problem, it's never going to be perfect. Obviously, if there's a problem, address it. Don't bury your head in the sand. But, a lot of this does come back to trusting those around you to be capable, and some of them might even be better than you at certain things. Hopefully they are, and that's why you hired them. So just feel grateful that you're surrounded by a high caliber, employees, and give to them as much as you can.
Yeah, and talking more about those milestones that are getting to that ramp period, and then obviously getting the goal of getting quota. Are there any mindset milestones that maybe I'm missing that I could incorporate into my framework, so that it's mutually beneficial for both the founder and the seller?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. There's the thing about mindset and mindfulness in general is it is a lifelong journey.
Hmm.
I know that we really like metrics and quantities and quantifiable measurements in
Yep.
sales and in tech in general. Mindfulness is it's not that, unfortunately, which makes it a little bit more ambiguous, and it is not linear either. Your growth is not linear when it comes to mindset. Like, you're going to have days where you feel like I've got this under control. I'm really growing and learning, and look how well I handled the situation. And then there's going to be other days, usually when you're lacking sleep, so sleep is important,
Yep.
that you are just going to crumble under the pressure, and you're going to be stressed and anxious, and you're not going to be able to sleep because you can't turn your mind off. You're going to have self-doubt. You're going to have limiting beliefs and negative talk tracks and all of the things that we try and overcome. They're gonna get to you some days. Like I had a day yesterday and I'm like, today's not my day. And you know what you have to do in those moments, or you don't have to do anything, but what I find helpful in those moments is to recognize I'm having a day and allowing yourself to have a day, recognizing that today I'm not at my best. I'm feeling some type of way. I am in my head, accepting that and giving yourself grace, allowing yourself to feel those negative emotions, because so often we layer on top this guilt and this kind of talk track of you shouldn't be feeling this way, get it together, what's wrong with you? And we double down on the negative self-talk to try and bully ourselves out of our bad mood or mindset. That doesn't work. The easiest and best way to come out of kind of a negative self-talk track is through compassion, through patience, through self-love. So, the metrics and the growth it's not linear. There's going to be good days and bad days. But the important thing is that it's something that you commit to yourself, that you're going to work on a daily basis, because you're worth it, because your quality of life is worth it, and you keep coming back day after day, even on the bad days. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And my next question was going to be about like action steps and skills that you can build, but even sort of expanding on that as far as a lot of these founders, they're either learning sales on the fly or they're selling because they have to, but they still lack the confidence.
Mm,
What can we say to founders, or how can we teach founders that sales is a rejection business, right? And how do you like snap
yeah.
that from, hey, I'm getting rejected every day, to like, this is the rejection business and I know how to like manage those emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. So totally, I love a rejection business. I haven't heard that phrase before, but it's so spot on. I think that the way that you don't become precious about rejection and feel some type of way about rejection is strengthening your relationship with yourself.
Mhm,
I know who I am. I have a very strong sense of self, and I'm able to connect with my true self pretty regularly because I kind of live and breathe this stuff at this point in my life. I did not always.
mhm,
So I can pretty much go into any room for the most part. I'm still human, but if I do in a sales situation, if I get rejected, I'm not taking it, I am not personally damaged by that. I am not personally affected. That doesn't make me question who I am
mhm,
because I know who I am. However, if you don't have that strong connection and relationship with your true self,
mhm,
you go throughout the world feeling defensive or constantly in a vulnerable state because anyone can come in and tell you something about yourself, and there's a chance that you might believe that it's true. So the best way that you can become bulletproof to rejection or even other people's negative feedback in general, not just rejection in sales, but negative feedback in life,
mhm.
is to work on your relationship with yourself, is to know who you are, to build self-trust, and then that kind of comes, you take that with you in all of your interactions throughout life, and it makes you just a more stable human being to be around, period. But it makes you let your guard down a bit because you don't feel so vulnerable to the world around you because you are sitting in a place of trust and knowing within yourself.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Nikki. Is there anything that I forgot or that you wanted to add that we didn't?
There are a lot of like tips and tricks around building this mindset stuff and building a more resilient mind. I share a lot of them in my course. It's free right now. I can't guarantee it'll be free forever. But I would love to kind of, I know we're talking very high level, but the more that you can practice and put some of these exercises into place in your everyday life, you'll start to see over time a change. And I think that it can be really, really profound if you commit to it. So I welcome anybody to check it out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nikki. I really appreciate you joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks so
All
much
right.
for having me, Keith. All
Bye-bye.
right.